Hey everyone, it's me, Moist Critical. I'm here on Innate Reviews to introduce this video and say I hope you enjoy it. Have a great day.
Welcome back to the series where I rank every single Studio Series Transformer. And this is part 4 of that said series. So if you haven't watched the other parts, please do so before watching this video. But before we start, I'd like to thank you all for 1,500 subscribers. It is actually crazy that I have that many subscribers now. We got 500 subscribers so quickly. I'm just still in denial. So yeah, thank you. And we will continue this part by looking at the next 10 Studio Series Transformers. Starting off with Studio Series 36, Autobot Drift. I'm not sure why they reused the Age of Extinction Deluxe Drift. That mold is so old, and it definitely shows. The posability, the sculpting, the kibble, and the transformation are all limited and such low quality. It's not a good figure, and it should have gotten a new mold. Or I would have been happy if they just retooled this one and fix up the issues. But they didn't do that. They were really lazy, and this mold is way too old for them to be using it. It's from like all the way back in Age of Extinction. It's actually pretty bad. And talking about being lazy, the Dinobots are also pretty lazy. They're pretty much useless in my opinion. I don't really care about those little minifigures. So this does not stand up to the quality of Studio Series. And it definitely does not belong in this line. I think that just based on most of it, it could be an F tier, but what's saving it is the vehicle mode. I do think the vehicle mode is quite nice. I do like it a lot. It's just that everything else is pretty bad. The next figure we have is a pretty monumental figure. It is the first Constructicon ever released. And the reveal of this was actually so hype. It was crazy. I was so excited for Devastator. However, just looking at this figure as an individual Transformer, it is a bit compromised. No doubt, it does look amazing. The sculpting is insane, and the vehicle mode is okay. The robot mode also has that unique presence. And I just love how the arms are designed. It's very big and very imposing. It's just another figure with that special aura about it. But the articulation is terrible. You can't pose him at all. Like, you can try all you want, but there's really only one good pose you can pull off. It's pretty bad. I would absolutely love it if they just included an elbow joint. That's all I'm asking, just one joint. So I do think this figure is an amazing statue piece, but the playability is literally non-existent. You just sit him on your desk and look at him. Just for that, I do think I'll put him at the bottom of C tier, just because of how his appearance carries him. Years ago, I saw this Optimus Prime in store, and I held it in my hands, thinking if I should get it or not. And on top of that, it was on sale as well. But I put it back, and years later, I did end up regretting it. But there was some good news. The new Rise of the Beast movie released, and with that, there was a new Optimus Prime. So I got the KO of the Rise of the Beast Optimus Prime, and it was an amazing figure, and I was no longer sad about missing this Optimus Prime. Until they did a re-release very recently. And so I had the opportunity to go and pick him up, and I caved and I got him. And now that I have him, it's actually such a good figure. I think it's better than the Rise of the Beast version. I just prefer the appearance, the buffness, the proportions of this a lot more than the Rise of the Beast version. And the truck mode is literally perfect. It's so nice. And the engineering on top of that is insane. I feel like this is basically masterpiece level engineering. It's really good. And speaking of masterpieces, I do think this is actually better than the masterpiece movie, Bumblebee movie Optimus Prime, in terms of engineering, playability, and especially the truck mode. I just love touching him and moving him around. And the only issue I have with this figure is maybe the head sculpt looks a bit weird and the arm kibble. It's a really nice Optimus Prime. I do think it is better than the Bayverse Optimus Prime. I actually think it's one of the best Studio Series Optimus Primes we've gotten. I think it's actually A tier. Better than Megatron. I think it's better than Megatron, but not as good as Starscream. Studio Series 39 Cogman is half amazing and half okay. The vehicle mode is one of the best vehicle modes ever. It's so clean, it looks so good, and it's covered in a nice silver paint. There's very little panel lining, and it just looks like a model car, to be honest. But this does come at a cost. The robot mode is not really the best. It does look pretty good though, but the biggest issue about it is the engineering, the posability, and the lack of paint in some areas. It's just very hard to play with him in robot mode. The Headmaster is also a very nice touch. It's pretty fun, and it makes Cogman actually size accurate. And speaking of size, this is definitely not in scale, but as I just said, the Headmaster makes it okay. So this figure is 100% carried by the car mode. I will put him at the top of C. The next figure is famously known for having a very accurate knee. Studio Series Shatter has terrible QC and everything just falls apart. If you want to handle her, you have to be very careful. It's very fragile. The car mode's okay though, and the robot mode doesn't look that bad as well. But the absolutely horrendous QC is putting me off. You can't even play with it or transform it in one piece. Can we get much higher? So high. It is so unfortunate because I do think it does have the potential to be decent, but the QC brings it all the way down to being unplayable. So I will put it in F tier, behind Barricade, because you can't even do anything with this figure. Here we have another Constructicon. Constructicon Scrapmetal. And not gonna lie, it does work as a standalone figure, unlike Rampage. I like the design a lot, and I think it's pretty cool. I really like the shapings of various areas like the chest, and I'm a big fan of the claw hands and its proportions. It's so big and bulky. The only issue, just like with Rampage, is the posability, but mainly just the posability in the legs. Another possible negative is that maybe it is a bit generic. It does look like a generic NPC Decepticon. So what I'm saying is, I guess it lacks character, but overall, as a toy, it's a pretty solid figure. So I will put him actually above. No, I'll put him in B tier at the end. I think it's pretty good, and it does stand alone as an individual figure. The next Transformer is pretty similar. It's another Constructicon that also can stand alone. Constructicon Long Haul looks so nice, and I love the character design. I think it's the most normal Constructicon of them all. The sculpting is amazing. There's so much detail. It's crazy. I love the chest area. The lack of posability is present with this one too, but it's okay here. Since he's so bulky, he's not really meant to be put in any agile poses, which I guess is a good thing because I like my Transformers big and chunky. The truck mode is mostly good, and the only issue is just the hands at the back. So in conclusion, it's another banger Constructicon, and I do think it's better than Scrapmetal. And it does stand alone as an individual figure. Though, I do wish it had more engineering, because it is a bit simple, but nonetheless, it definitely deserves to be somewhere in B tier. I do think he's better than Lockdown, and I'm actually gonna move Lockdown behind Scrapmetal and Bone Crusher. Next up, we have Studio Series KSI Boss. And if you want my opinions on this mold, just check out what I said about Thundercracker in the first part. But this one is even more like the Last Night Nitro Zeus. It's exactly the same, and the only difference is just the paint. This one has really nice paint in my opinion. I really like the metallics, and it does look better than the Last Night version of him. But not gonna lie, he doesn't really stand out as his own figure. They couldn't even give him a new head sculpt. That just makes for just a mediocre and uninteresting figure. It's still good, but it's just basic, and it seems like a lazy repaint. Where on the other hand, Thundercracker, in my opinion, actually makes it a lot more fun. So I think KSI Boss goes much lower. It's a pretty boring figure. Again, if you want my opinion on this Optimus Prime, just check out my previous part. I talk about it there. So this Optimus Prime is a better painted version of the 32 Optimus Prime, where specifically they just gave him silver windows and the orange part of the flames. The main difference though is the inclusion of a trailer. I do think it's pretty cool, and I do like the concept. And I like the weapon stands too. It's a really nice idea, and I have always wanted an Optimus Prime with a trailer. So I do want this figure, but I don't know. The trailer seems so cheap. It's not painted, it's hollow, and it just doesn't seem like it's worth the extra money for a leader class. It's a good idea, but poor execution. That is so unfortunate because I do see the potential in this figure. So I have no choice but to put him lower. I'll put him at the top of C because I still think it's a pretty cool concept. We started off this part with a drift figure, and now we are ending it with a drift figure. The difference though is that this one is so much better. They finally gave Drift a new mold, where this time he transforms into a helicopter. I think this one is a lot better. Even though it's not really that accurate, I think it looks very cool. I really like the proportions, I just like the way it looks. The engineering seems pretty fun as well, and the helicopter mode looks pretty clean in my opinion. The only issues I can really see with it is the parts forming, and as I said before, the accuracy. Other than that, I think it's a pretty fun figure, and it's a pretty cool figure. I really do want this one. In my personal opinion, I do think it's better than Jazz. Yeah, I think this Drift is better than Jazz, but it's not as good as Sideswipe. Here we have the rankings so far, and I feel like it's going pretty good. Thank you guys for all your support with the series, and also thank you for 1,500 subscribers. It is amazing. Thank you guys so much.